This is awesome. First, I just want to thank everybody for coming to this press conference. It's be my pleasure to answer your guys' questions about the 2Fiddy project that I'm working with. And I know there's a couple of them, so let's just jump straight into it. Let's start with our first gentleman back there.
Yeah, I got a question. So like, why don't you build it with the 3-inch? I mean, everybody knows you can hit sub 250 way easier with a 3-inch. This guy doesn't know.
Okay, true, but I actually just wanted to challenge myself and see what could be done with 5-inch.
5-inch?
I don't really think anybody out there has really pushed 5-inch this way yet, so I figured why not push the tech that way?
Yeah, but that frame looks so heavy, man. If you built it with 3-inch, it'd be so much lighter. God, this guy doesn't know anything.
Ooh, you're so passionate. I'm not trying to build the lightest frame out there. In fact, in my first video, I had explained that I wanted to utilize all 250 grams and allocate that budget to go towards a freestyle performing power setup along with a durable enough frame to support it.
All right, like, are you gonna build a 3-inch version of this or not?
Okay, no.
It doesn't anything.
Do we have our next guest?
You got sold.
I'm sorry, what?
You got sold.
Huh?
Nah, don't give in.
Don't give in to what?
Don't let him take your liberty.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused. Normally, you ask the questions and I give you the answers. I feel like there's a little bit of like a reverse thing going on here.
So what? First is this 250 gram number, huh? Then what's next? What? I can only drink a 250 gram beer? Is that, huh?
You know, that doesn't sound like a bad rule for you to follow.
So what, you think you're just badass there, huh? Just making these drones, flying these drones. I tell you what's badass. You should fight. Fight a little. Huh? All of you.
Okay, I see what this is now. So I actually left a comment on the NPRM as well as signed the petition against it. And as for all of us, there's the FPV Freedom Coalition that you could join that's fighting against it. And there's even a retailer, Race Day Quads, who's actually suing the FAA. So I think taking action is important, especially if you're really passionate about this hobby like I am. But at the same time, I really want to start pushing this build so that by the time this rule does get enforced, I'll have something so good, the tech will be so awesome that it won't matter.
Sheep.
You're so descriptive and sober.
Sheep. Sheep.
Okay, thank you. Who do we have next?
First of all, I'm a pilot, so I pretty much know what I'm talking about. Secondly, I can tell you that 4-inch is the way to go, because I built a 5-inch before and it flew like trash.
Oh, that's a strong word. Passionate, are we? Okay, how about this? Care to elaborate? Maybe share little details about like what motor setup you were using?
Doesn't matter. It flew like trash.
Okay, so that's kind of subjective. Maybe your expectations were just a little misguided. Were you trying to freestyle with what should have been better off as like a long range build?
It was a trash build.
I see. Okay, well, I've got some video. I've got some video showing some stable flight, really great power, and so much agility that it can stop on a dime. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about finding the right motor and prop setup for what you're looking for.
Well, mine didn't fly like that, so it can't be true.
Okay, so I'm sensing that maybe you haven't seen any of my previous videos. I literally have like a handful of videos explaining exactly how we got up to this point. I think you should go check one out. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Typical YouTuber response. Wanting me to go watch another video. This is why I don't subscribe to you guys. You guys are so annoying.
That was a great chat. Well, thank you for coming. It was great having you here. Who do we have next?
Hi there. So my name is actually Tommy as well. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
So I've been watching your build series on this project.
You watch my videos?
Every single one.
Even the bad ones?
Oh, well, hey now, I mean, I don't think there's such thing as bad ones. Let me guess. You think the ones that are bad are the ones that get the lowest amount of views? Oh, well, shoot, I don't think you should be so hard on yourself. I don't think that the number of views really equates to whether or not your video's good or bad. I mean, that's almost as arbitrary as the 250-gram number that the FAA is using to determine remote ID. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I like you.
Yeah. So, is it cool if I get to my questions now?
Yes, of course. Please, ask away.
So in your last video, you ended up with an all-up weight of 266 grams. And it looks like you're pretty happy with the durability of the frame.
I am.
Me too. So, I can't imagine that you'd reduce that durability by removing some weight out of that frame and potentially even reintroducing some frame resonance issues, kind of like what you experienced early on.
Don't want that.
Right? So, what are you gonna do to hit that 250-gram mark?
I'm so glad that you asked that because I was actually about to make a whole video on this very subject right after this press conference.
Wait, let me guess. You're gonna go with the lighter battery.
You really did watch my videos, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you also kind of just mentioned it in your last video, and you know, it is what makes the most logical sense.
Okay, but before I get into that, let me just make it really clear. If you're building this up with analog, you're in the clear. You could use a Rush Tank Mini, which puts out 800 milliwatts of power, only weighs 5 grams, pair that up with like a Runcam Racer, and that also weighs 5 grams, and you'll be well under 250 grams, and you can keep that 6S 450 milliamp pack, which is like my favorite pack.
Perfect. Okay, so analog crew, good. Now, for us digital folks.
Digital looks pretty good, don't it? Alright, so if you're going to run the Vista setup with the standard DJI FPV camera, your option is to run a 4S power setup using the 2400 kV motors. And in fact, you can even run a higher capacity, something like a 650 milliamp. And as long as that battery weighs 68 grams or less, you'll be right on the nose of 250 grams. And you'll even get longer flight times. It's like you get me.
I mean, that 6S power is hard to deny.
Right?
So, a smaller battery?
Yeah, okay, so my concern about running a smaller capacity is that you really start to get into that gray area between what a battery can deliver in terms of energy versus what a power system is demanding. Manufacturers normally refer to this as their C
rating.
Yeah, C rating. Now look, if this were any other build, generally speaking, you probably should just go for the highest C rating that you can get, and it'll give you a little bit more punch. Right. But in the case of our 250 build, I feel like the numbers are so close that these numbers are going to have a lot more impact to the performance. In fact, can I geek out on you for a second? Can I geek out on you guys? I want to do some math here.
I thought you'd never ask.
Alright, so I reached out to G&B and they sent me over a couple of 6S prototype packs, really small capacity. So the first one is a 350 milliamp 50C pack. So if you want to calculate what this pack can deliver as far as energy goes at a sustained level, right, that's called constant, you're going to multiply 0.35 times the 50C rating, and that works out to 17.5 amps constant. Now, the other pack that they sent me is the 300 milliamp at an 80C rating, so that's going to be 0.3 times 80, and that works out to a 24 amp constant. Now, both of these packs should be able to handle the constant load that the 2Fiddy build should put out, because I found that it hovers at right around 2.5, and just goes up a little bit slightly from there if you're just doing some general cruising and flying. However, that's not really where my concern is. My concern is on the opposite end of things. What happens when I start demanding a little bit more out of this battery? You see, I know that on a full throttle punch out, it'll spike to 36 amps and then settle down to about 31 amps on full throttle. And if we do the calculations on the burst rating now, That 350 milliamp pack only works out to 33 amps, so definitely a concern, while the 300 milliamp ADC pack is going to be rated for 48 amps in burst, so that one not so worried about. So these numbers are just really close for me on paper that I really wanted to test and fly for myself to really find out what kind of impact it'll have to the performance.
Right. I mean, can't be having this explode in the air.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't explode, but you do run the risk of prematurely wearing out the battery faster. Plus, we all have to also just keep in mind that different battery manufacturers derive their C rating a little differently. Like for instance, one manufacturer might say like a 1% change in IR reading over the course of say 10 cycles is acceptable and therefore give it a higher C rating, versus perhaps another company says no, that change really needs to happen over the course of 100 cycles and therefore might give you a slightly lower C rating. So that's why I wanted to test this for myself in real life, because at the end of the day, I'm more concerned about the way this feels. This is my freestyle basher right here.
Okay, so inquiring minds want to know which of these batteries you're going with.
Actually, neither. You see, the 350 milliamp pack with the 50C rating had a definite reduction in power. Like, it was really obvious. It's almost like my quad didn't have its morning cup of coffee. It really left a lot to be desired. And, you know, it makes sense because with the 33 amp burst max rating, you're really demanding a lot out of that battery. And I suspect that that battery with this power setup is probably going to wear out a lot faster than you would want. Now, the 300 milliamp pack on the other hand, that felt great. That had lots of punch. Not quite the kind of punch as the 6S 450 milliamp pack that I've been running, but definitely not something that I felt like I was missing something. You know what I mean? Well, that was at least until I had to land in like less than 3 minutes. So yeah, that was the bad part about the 300 milliamp pack. The fun just didn't last as long, and I felt like that's just definitely too short for my needs. So I told G&B that I want them to make a 350 milliamp pack with an ADC rating, and then we'll have the best of both worlds. You got the punch, the power, and you'll have longer flight time, something closer to probably like 3 to 4 minutes, which I think will be just right.
Got it. All right, well, thanks, man. Thank you for sharing this information. I feel like I've taken up a little bit too much of your time now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and step off and let someone else have a go. But thank you so much.
Wait, no, don't go. And you're gone. Okay. All right, who do we have next?
Hello, time. Some people have no respect, man. Not paying no attention. Anyways, yo, Tommy, what's good, man? I got a question for you. Have you thought about 3.6 inches?
So I actually really just wanted to challenge myself with a 5-inch, but screw all this. I'm out of here.
All right, I do have a little bit more information that I need to share with you guys. The first being that G&B did tell me that the 6S 350 milliamp ADC pack is gonna come in at an estimated 68 grams. And at 68 grams, that's gonna put you exactly at 250 grams on the nose. I'm talking about Caddx Vista, stock cherry antenna, and the standard DJI FPV cam. You're gonna be really close. So just in case G&B comes out with this pack and it weighs a little bit heavier, or just to account for some build variances, I suggest that you build this with the lightest components possible. I'm talking using the new Caddx Nebula Pro, which is what I actually used during this testing. And yes, I think that the image quality is just as good as the DJI camera. More on that on a separate video though. And I also used the iFlight F7 Beast all-in-one because that was a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. And finally, I also swapped out the cherry antenna for a really lightweight Lumineer Axie Micro, like the really short one. And with that, my all-up weight dropped down to 175 grams. So that's about a 7-ish gram difference from the full build. And I feel like that 7 grams is going to give you just the right amount of buffer for different types of build variances, and just in case that battery comes out to be a little bit heavier. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is I did test the motor with tri-blades. And I think the trick here is to keep things lightweight. And the prop that I tried was the GemFan 5125. That prop comes in at 2.9 grams and it handled it absolutely fine. So for all of you guys who really prefer the feel of tri-blades, just know that as long as you stick to a really lightweight prop, something like 2.9 grams, tri-blades on this setup won't be a problem. Personally though, I actually really like the bi-blades, and it has more to do with the fact that I just break way less props. You know, once you go to a tri-blade or a quad blade, you know, you're just more prone to breaking things. The other thing that I want to point out is that my 2004 motor was made specifically for this frame. And what I'm talking about is that the way the motor wires exit is right in line with how the motor mount screw holes go. And so depending on what frame you put this on, in case you're planning to put this motor on a different frame, the motor wires might exit in a weird or less than ideal situation. So just something to think about. I also noticed that with the Nebula Pro, I was seeing some of the frame in the shot. Now, I double checked my camera mount and everything looked really straight. So I think that the prototype or beta sample that was sent to me from CADX, the sensor might have just been off a little bit. But regardless, I'm gonna make some new holes for the production frame so that way that shouldn't be a problem. And speaking of the frame, I'm thinking I'm gonna call it the 2Fiddy. That's just the internal project that I've been calling it. But I'm open to ideas. If you guys have any suggestions as to what to name this frame, drop it down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And also, if you want to stay up to date with the build, I'm gonna start posting more in our Facebook group, the Oh My God crew. So check that out. And finally, since a lot of you have been asking, I am going to open this up for pre-order. Check out ohmygod.com. I'll have some firm dates in the product description so that you know exactly what to expect if you decide to go ahead and pre-order this frame. All right, that's it. That's gonna wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.